shot. Oh my goodness. Welcome and hello and good evening and welcome and hello. I do not know if this live stream is actually working. I have been having endless technical difficulties with my internet, with my live stream, with my OBS. I have not monetized this channel, so I've been too cheap to pitch in for one of the good software packages, but I don't know if anyone can hear me out there. If anyone is there, please make yourselves known and say turd in the chat. Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. Again, I'd like to welcome you and say hello. I don't know if anyone can hear or see this stream. Been having endless technical difficulties. The All the engineers on the Un Poco Mas crisis team have been working overtime to try to get my 1980s vintage Tandy running again. Looks like we may be up. I do see several of my important viewers, my most important viewer, PJ. Hello and welcome to you. Joy Luna is here. Here we go, guys. My apologies. The stream was going on and off, having all kinds of problems with OBS. Looks like we might be live now. Hello and welcome and good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Un Poco Mas. Of course, we are in a more subdued sort of a weekend edition, Un Poco Mas After Dark. My apologies to my friends on the East Coast. Been trying to get a live stream going for quite some time and just have been failing miserably as the technical oaf that I am. But in any case, guys, it is un poco mas. I was taking a look at 23 and Me here for Gigolo Beach Slayer, and this stock is an absolute piece of shit. Now I know sometimes you're trapped in a stock and there's just nothing you can do. You don't want to sell after it's fallen, absolutely through the floor, but you know, it's one of those things where they're burning money so fast. They don't have a ton of debt, but it just doesn't look like they have a viable business model without some drastic change. Their revenues are just falling through the floor. Their expenses are completely out of control. So um, they definitely have a lot of brand recognition, so that's a good thing. Anyway, guys, we are here to talk about SoFi Technologies Incorporated, ticker symbol SOFI. Guys, it's Un Poco Moss. Thank you for tuning in this evening. Toper time check. It's 8:51 in the PM out here in beautiful rainy Los Angeles. It's March 3rd, 2024, 3/3/24. I talk a lot on this channel, like a broken record, about false narratives and about why does it work? I heard another great video from the Stock Goat earlier. Of course, all of the SoFi analysts, all the typical the usual suspects, the U-turders, these brash young kids. Either they're from the Midwest somewhere, they're from Canada, they're in their 20s, they've got probably German vehicles, maybe some of them have Teslas, but they got money in their pockets, they got chips on their shoulders, and they're looking to play the fintech stocks. Um, and these types of people are more sophisticated, selling options, making money, but retail keeps getting their clocks cleaned over and over in these little pump and dumps, going back for quite a long time now, probably 2 years. And Stock Goat's right. This thing has been held down, but it's been held down to great profit. And that's come at the expense of the retail investor, unfortunately. And that's kind of the point of this channel is like, don't be afraid of the short interest. There's so much FUD, even amongst bulls kicking around about, oh my God, it's record short interest. The sky's falling. Well, I mean, guys, that can run both ways. If you continue to short a stock and your thesis is proven wrong over and over again, ER after ER, and management has proven themselves right, why are you afraid of that short interest? I don't get it. I would embrace that short interest. That's going to provide an extreme amount of upward price pressure, in my opinion. Good evening, Roland Dubs. What's poppin'? How's it going, Emilio? Daniel Z is here. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's a very inopportune hour for most people, but hopefully anybody who wants to see can catch the live stream. Since I had about 2 hours of technical difficulties, streams cutting in and out, guys, I am just God bless those of you that have like teenage kids to tell you how to use the computer and these apps and these internets. It's just a struggle, It's like a caveman just hitting something with a stone. But anyway, guys, just want to talk about what we saw last week. They held this thing at $9. Max Payne was 850. Everybody's getting very fearful over this 17% short. But if you look at the options, guys, it really doesn't look like they're desperately trying to push this thing down. The put call ratio is still bullish, 0.71 for the 8th. It's still slightly bullish even on the 15th. If you take a look at Max Payne for the 8th, you're talking about $8.50. Open interest puts again, you got to be careful with open interest because a lot of these options were originated before the ER. So a lot of this stuff is either closed out or it's dead money. If you look at the volume, puts are basically calls are exceeding puts by a 7-to-4 ratio. Puts are heavy at $8.50 and calls are heavy at 9. So calls, there's actually quite a few calls, 950, 10. Of course, I don't think, the stock is necessarily going to pop up past 10, but a lot of people are saying, why aren't you selling more covered calls? You have a lot of shares. And, that's true. I do have a lot of shares, but the reason I'm not selling covered calls is right here on May 15th when the stock was $4.93. And then on June 12th when the stock was $8.60. Look at these moves, guys. I mean, this stock makes extreme moves in both directions. There's a lot of pump and dumps on the stock, but what we've seen with institutions coming into the stock is that the price action seems to be stabilizing around this $9 level. At least it seems to be to me. You have to make your own judgment call on that. What I see is basically, I mean, I wouldn't call this technical analysis, maybe technical analysis for dummies. Maybe it's, a monkey hitting something with a wrench, whatever you want to call it, a chunky monkey. But how dare you? Basically, since 11/21, guys, this was the low. This was the low. The low was $6.41. And if you're able to sort of take an overview and look at the big picture, we've been in an upward channel. I would argue this upward channel, with all due respect to like this giant bulge pattern here. I don't know what else to call it, a mountain pattern, a couple, you know, twig and berries pattern, but and with all due respect to this pump and dump here, we've basically been in a steady upward channel and we've been making higher lows since November 21st. So, guys, that's over a quarter. And there hasn't been any appetite to sell below that level, and there was a lot of shorting going on in the high sixes. And people are like, well, they've got to drive it back down into the fives. It's going to happen. Market makers, guys, things change. Not everything just happens the same. You could be trading a stock for 2 years, and mechanics could be making money, selling options and basically manipulating retail on an endless series of pump and dumps. But that doesn't mean it's going to go on forever. If smart money starts to buy, that game is over. I mean, they have to do a little bit more than start to buy. They have to have some staying power. But that's what you're seeing with ARK. That's what you're seeing with Vanguard. That's what you're seeing with other companies. Um, they're not just buying a few shares once and taking a wait and see approach. You're seeing ARK and others accumulate aggressively. You're seeing mutual funds, index funds, pension funds all buying into the SOFI stock. And I would argue if filings were immediate, institutional ownership is probably somewhere around 45% at this time. And that has to catch up. But once that hits 50%, as the great Dr. Bob likes to say, it's really going to stabilize the price of the stock. And once you hit 60%, if we were to be so lucky in, say, a year's time, that would be absolute game over. There wouldn't be anybody left shorting the stock. at least no one of account, no one to speak of. It would be a bunch of no account losers who aren't even bona fide. Um, but it's not that hard to see this, guys. You see the low there made on November 21st. You see a giant bulge pattern with a double tip wing or something like that. You see this massive sell off. Again, this is the parrot bowling ball head sell off of New Year's, where he was spending his New Year's and Christmas break crafting a clever downgrade on the SoFi stock, just sort of out of nowhere, 1 month before earnings. Didn't really make a lot of sense, but then basically you see the price action stabilize here. And this has been kind of a critical level, that 850 to high sevens level, push it down again. And then they just keep banging it off this trend line. And what you saw with that breakout, basically 226 was that it crashed through 50-day moving average, remained above, and then it's been riding this trend line. So we basically saw pumps. I would say this whole thing right here is just a giant pump and dump, honestly. I know it was, you know, a month and a half long, but be that as it may, I would submit that's what it was. You had a downtrend coming down here till, stuff doesn't have to be super complicated, guys. And since end of November, mid to end of November, you've basically had an uptrend coming in for, the last 3 to 4 months. And I believe that's going to be sustained. I believe we've just leveled up. There was no gap here. That's people keep saying that. You have to fill this gap. There was no gap, guys. It was 1 cent between the day before and the day after. You can, I don't know if I can zoom in and show this. I don't even know what gap I'm talking about at this point. I guess it was right here. Where did this thing gap up? No, over here. It's right over here. See this? Like, you know, the low is 870 and the high is it was basically 1 cent. It was like a gap of 1 cent represented by this little green line right here. There is no gap. Those points connect. It doesn't mean anything. Ever since then, it's just been banging off this trend line. You can see it. This thing is poised. It's poised for a huge move up. The technicals are screaming. It's doing this while they're killing the volume and shorting the stock. What's wrong with you gutless turds? Pick up a few shares. Not financial advice. Entertainment purposes only. Not financial advice. I would never tell you to buy SoFi. But what do they do on Friday? What do they do on Thursday? These just mimic each other. They were holding the stock at $9 the last 3 days of the week because they had to kill those calls. If they start paying those $9 calls, max paying at 850, a lot of volume there at the weekly $9, foolishly, retail making another foolish decision. But what do you see? Borrowed change, 3.41 million, right? Exactly the same thing on Thursday. Look at this, guys. You think this is coincidence? The net borrowing on Friday is 3.413 million. The net borrowing on Thursday is 3.456 million. The volume is descending just too neatly. The algo is so locked on Friday. Felt like the algo was wearing a very tight pair of tidy whities. Look at these volume candles. I mean, there's a huge sell. I guess it's a sell right there, but otherwise, the volume is flatter on the daily than I've seen it in a long time, and it's only trading 26 million shares. So you just see this neat stair step down, 66, 42, 29, and then 26 million. I anticipate a lot of shares traded coming out of the gate on Monday. The trading desks are really sitting on the sidelines both Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, just basically helping their trapped short wing brethren kill those call options. But that just can't go on forever with institutions piling into the stock. And there's guys out there like, financial education Jeremy, who's been talking a lot about SoFi, and he did his analysis, and I have to say it was pretty good. I haven't always, sung the guy's praises, but guys like him are saying, "Hey, I'm going to buy this thing, in blocks up till $12. I see the price moving up, and then I would consider buying. I would nibble up to $15." And I really don't think that's unreasonable because I think this whole thing has been mechanics holding the stock down sort of illogically. I mean, everybody's talking about how great, stocks like Robinhood, people talked so much about a firm. I think SoFi has been maligned every which way it can be, from the just a bank to too many loans to the tech side doesn't work. And one by one, all those dominoes of the bear case are falling, and they've all been proven wrong. And what management has laid out, their numbers, their projections, they've all been proven to be not only completely accurate, but also consistently conservative, which I would say as an investor is the kind of thing you want. And it's the absolute consistency of SoFi's numbers, which is mind boggling, right through the pandemic, right through changing the entire company. I mean, it reeks of high quality management, the best executive team in the industry, and it shows. When you look at the resumes of the guys running Galileo, you look at the resumes of the people running SoFi Bank. These are top-notch guys coming in from USAA, US Bank, Google. Of course, Noto's biography is well known. The team is just outstanding. Hello and welcome, guys. Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, it's maximum turd tonight, Bread Dab. I try to run on maximum turd every day. I turned up the volume to maximum turd and broke it off. My choners change. I'm not selling my choners. Absolutely not. Hell, good night and good night. Hello, hello, good evening, and good night. I know many of you have to go, but I just want to take a quick look at this short and say why it's disconnected from the technicals and why it's just completely disconnected from the fundamentals. This chart, if you, it doesn't matter really the duration you look, it's in a clear uptrend. Um, the volume has been, fairly moderate, but I don't see this thing pushing back to 6. I don't see what everybody's talking about. I don't see how it's going to happen. There's going to be a massive FUD storm they're going to try to create, but I just see the institutions, they're not emotional. They're not retail investors. They're just going to buy those dips. That's my opinion. Look at the short volume, the last 3 days of last week. This, of course, the stock was going up these 2 days. Short volume was, low, short volume ratio, excuse me, 39, 51, 42. They were just shorting just enough to hold it where they needed to hold it, which is at $9. It's showing me nobody wants to push down the stock. They weren't even trying to bring $8.50 into play, which was maximum pain. So it's completely changing. They used to be able to push it right down to maximum pain and hold it there at the penny and just toy with the stock. And why isn't that working? The fund sentiment score is going up. The institutional put call ratio is fairly even. That's usually more puts, and then the retarders are the ones buying a lot more calls, particularly the short term calls. That's happening because Vanguard's coming in, but then you see Goldman Sachs. These filings will probably update tomorrow. They're of course playing some kind of options trade, short long as Goldman is wont to do. You have Creekmere Asset Management LLC. I'm not sure exactly what that filing is all about. Latest disclosed ownership, 39,000 shares. So they just filing a 13F, average price 795. So that's a new position, very nice new position opening up. Um, 39,000 shares, obviously not a huge thing, but it's good when institutions feel comfortable coming in at 8 because I think if the smart money thought the stock was about to dip to 6, they wouldn't be buying so heavily here at 9. And the put call ratios and the options are just not saying, when I hear the talking heads on TV trying to scare retail, or I hear these authors, so many authors on like tip ranks, they're sort of amplifying these analysts who are calling for price targets of $6.50. That's the new FUD. You don't really, the bologna sandwich reiterated at $4, but nobody listens to that five head. He's a ridiculous joke. He's over at BTIG, he leaves that desk, that Lance guy comes out, he puts out a $16 pump on the stock, and then his old five-headed buddy comes out and puts a $4 sell on the stock. These guys were hired by the same people. They see the same numbers. It's almost unbelievable that one would have a price target on the same company looking at the same data 4 times the other one. It just one saying, "Hey, it's a home run," the other saying, "Hey, this thing is impending bankruptcy and doom." So, go figure. That's how these things work. I know most of you guys are probably too sophisticated to be, manipulated by these sort of analyst-inspired dumps, like we saw with the bowling ball head on January 2nd of this year, bookended by the Midwest Values on the last day of January with his identical downgrade. Just original thinkers all around Wall Street, his identical downgrade from $7 to $6.50. But as the world turns, life goes on, and you saw after that that whole sell-off. Earnings came out, made the round trip from 7 all the way up to 9 or whatever it was, then dumped back down to 7. I mean 750 up to 9, dumped back down to 750, or maybe went up to 940, whatever it was. I don't have the energy to look. But the point is, guys, after it filled that gap back down to 750, the rise has been steady up to 9. And don't forget, that's a 20% move. And I kept telling you before the earnings, if it's good, if they meet, it's going to be a 20% move. It doesn't matter where it starts. That's how they control where it finishes. And that's the trick the devil played on us this ER. Is they convinced us that it should go in at 750. Everybody was comfortable. Everybody was scared. I think they spread a lot of fear that they weren't going to make that gap net profit. And it was effective because now they're holding the stock at 9, but I just don't think it's going to last. I think institutions are very, very comfortable buying this stock with this growth rate, up until 11, up until 12. I think they're going to, casually wander in. But I think once the next ER hits and there's really high membership growth from this NBA deal, top line growth, beat there, I think they're going to squeak out another net profit. And I think, the stock goes up through 10 and stays there. I thought it would go up significantly through 10 after this ER. The problem was, guys, guidance was weak, and that's sort of on management. That's what they do. They could have been, I think, quite a bit more aggressive, and then maybe not had the beat, but I think they would have had a more institutions coming in Q1. But again, this management is not here for the quick buck, not here for the quick pump. They're trying to bring in institutions that want to stay in the stock, the pension funds, the mutual funds. They're not trying to bring in these sort of pump and dump hedge funds, because obviously that's not how you stabilize the price of the stock and see it go up on in accordance with fundamentals quarter after quarter, year after year, which is obviously what SoFi management is trying to do. Hello and welcome anybody new who's joined us. Yeah, the turd is only halfway out. That's a good way to put it, Emilio. If they push down, Wheelong's buy gets stronger. I mean, that's all retail has to do is just start buying on buy on the dumps. Don't panic. There's nothing to panic about that we can see. I mean, if retail bought up the shares every time they pushed it down, the shorts are done. You'd start establishing a short squeeze, and you know, it is what it is. It just, retail hasn't been aggressively buying the stock post earnings. Retail is already overloaded. Retail is out of money. Retail has spent all their money on, golf clubs, Christmas shopping, or you know, a new Hyundai Elantra or whatever it is. Maybe a new Gremlin, maybe a classic car. Who knows? Maybe you bought one of those like hipster old motorcycles with the flat handlebars that are so hot right now from those like Japanese anime things. Anyway, guys, I don't really have too much more. I know that video didn't really have any content or point, but I just wanted to kind of look at this short and the structure of it versus the price action. And it hasn't really been effective. I don't think these funds that are short are the ones accumulating. I think they're playing right into the larger market makers' hands, holding the stock down for them. I think the smart money, the real smart money, the Vanguards, the BlackRocks, the State Streets, the Jane, all these. I think they're happy to accumulate the stock at $9, at $8. I don't think they realistically think they're going to see another opportunity at 6, which I think is why they're going to continue to accumulate here. And guys, if you're thirsty, I highly recommend a delicious glass of SoFi. My new SoFi mug and this tap water has been an outstanding combination. A winner for my investments and my taste buds. Oh, you guys, you kill me. Anyway, anybody else have anything interesting to say? What do you think is the next catalyst? I think let's not forget, I mean, this quarter's over in just over 3 more weeks, like 3 to 4 more weeks. So we have another ER less than 2 months away. I mean, NBA playoffs are going to start before too long. SoFi is going to be all over the place. I don't know. I guess the catalysts are really the performance of the company. I mean, if you're able to make any kind of announcement or deduce some type of contract sign on that, top five bank with Galileo, that would be absolutely huge. But I expect that to take a number of more quarters. This is these contracts are sorry, I got a mustache hair in my mouth. These contracts take a long time, which is, it seems bad right now, but it's actually good because they have a ton of staying power. If it takes, several years for one of these major banks to put out the contract, to put out the RFP, analyze all the RFPs, take a good look at the company, then do smaller proofs of concept with several companies, then maybe with one or two, with one actually, it's not with one or two. They're not going to do these one at a time, a major proof of concept. I think that's the next step. So basically the catalyst I'm looking for is good news for tech. The catalyst I'm looking for are defaults under control and basically the company proceeding along the same trajectory it was proceeding along the last several quarters, which has been just outstanding. Looking at the margins, looking at EBITDA. Now we want to see more cross selling, but these are all things you guys know. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all, Toto, if Noto has another big announcement. I mean, something with X, something with the NFL. There's all kinds of things we could be looking at, guys. Noto has his fingers in a lot of pies. The guy knows everybody on Wall Street. He knows everybody in, the sports world, the NFL world. He knows, they have a lot of connections in Latin America through Technesis. We could see something with football, soccer, goal, SoFi. Do you see SoFi breaking 10 this week? It could easily go through 10, Beach Boy. I mean, I just showed you where the stock went from, 440 to 860 very, very quickly. This thing can move up. It just has to see if some catalyst hits and shorts have to cover, or some hedge funds start making really major buys, some institutions start making really major buys that just scare the hell out of the shorts bosses. If you see aggressive covering, guys, it's been moving up steadily while being shorted more and more heavily. So, I mean, that tells the story, guys, that there's buyers in this market. There's not sellers, there's just shorters. Institutions aren't dumping this thing below 10. They want to read the rest of the story. They're not ready to leave this movie in the middle and, go get another tub of artificially flavored margarine popcorn. They want to see the end. They want to see how this thing ends. It's a good movie. It's a compelling plot. We love the actors. Um, bigger names have non-disclosure clause. Thoughts on SOFA? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the bigger names, they're not going to be able to necessarily disclose those contracts, but as the guys were saying, you're going to see them show up in the numbers. So if you see this massive increase in the tech side, you're going to know that the contracts, are kicking in. But that's going to take some time, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry to not a lurker. I'm doing these videos at really odd times, and it's just kind of how things are working out. Like I said, I was gonna text him. I was gonna do much earlier, but I just could not get my stream to work, and it was a very weak situation. And this is SoFi week in review. It is extremely weak. Don't be scared of the short interest, except for banking and fintech. Yeah, fintech will have its time, David M. You just have to be patient. Was that, Warren Buffett says the market is a means of transferring money from the impatient to the patient, and all those types of things, all those cliches. Yeah, he's lurking in his dreams. And sweet dreams, J Money, not a lurker. He's wielding his big purple wrench while he's counting sheep. And we'll try to do our next video in some hour that people on the East Coast might possibly be up and awake, because I am severely limiting my audience. Poor decision after poor decision from old Danny Deals. But what else is new, right? Am I right? Or am I right? Or am I right? Um, to quote Needle Nose Ned the head. Anyway, guys, Big Purple Wrench. It's his moderator's wrench, Emilio. Get your mind out of the gutter. Um, you know, not a lurker's a family man. So anyway, I feel like most sectors. Yeah, hello and welcome, Toto. Thanks for being here, Beach Boy, David M, Joy Luna, Emilio. Everybody else who's here, it's not that many people. Mopar for Life, Entertainment International's here. Burrow Sound, I think, went to bed. Burrow King Sound. Mopar was here. Dread Deb, Mark R. Mark R's here. I don't know if his family is probably little Celeste has probably had to go to bed since we started so late, but maybe Mrs. Mark R is there. And if you guys are scoring at home, or even if you're alone, I appreciate you watching. And that's Un Poco Mas, guys. The stock is SoFi. The show is Un Poco Mas. And Could be an exciting week ahead. I do not anticipate a big drop in the price. It's either going to be sort of held steady here in the $9 range, pushing down perhaps a bit, or we could see something absolutely explosive to the upside. Just depends what market makers want to do. They're still in charge, but returners are holding strong, and we're holding our own. And you guys hold whatever, but I don't care if you go home, but you can't stay here. Peace. I'm out.